falls in your heart, you can't get up, you can't stay down. You think this must be the end of the line, but I'm here by your side, holding on, holding tight. Come on friend, let's move on to a higher place. Jello, ọmọ kìí sojo, ṣe bólúborí ní wá, a ó borí dandan o. Má ṣe sùn, má ṣe rẹ̀wẹ̀sì, má ṣiyèméjì rárá. Rẹ̀ mi má ṣe fòyà, má ṣe bẹ̀rù, má ṣe fà sẹ́yìn rárá. Iṣẹ́ ń bẹ o. Jello.
It's all about transparency, accountability, consensus, responsiveness, and inclusiveness. The leader, not just talking, is listening. Meet your governor. Your right to know.
And thanks for joining us on this month's edition of your program, Meet Your Governor. Meet Your Governor is a program floated for you whereby you meet with the Ekiti State Governor, Dr. Kaudi Fahimi, talking about transparency and accountability of his government, because he's holding that position in thrust for you. Already we have seated in the studio His Excellency, Dr. Kaudi Fahimi. Your Excellency, thanks for joining us in the program. And
thank you for having me.
And we thank you for jumping at another opportunity to come and give account of how you are running your administration to the people. I'm not the only driver on this program. I have my colleagues from This Day newspaper, Toba Suleiman. Mr. Toba, thanks for coming on the program. And also another colleague from FM Adaba, Mui Oluwa Olatubosun Ojo. Thanks for coming on the program.
It's good to be here.
Yeah. Your Excellency, you are now in our studio to talk about your administration and rub mind with your people outside there. And I want to start on this because this is the first time after the pronouncement of the Supreme Court judgment that will be in this studio. And I want to ask, because then when, the whole thing was going on, people were talking that they're already moving things out of the government house, and that the salary then was not paid because there'll be a chunk to move out. and somebody like me will be curious. How do you feel then?
Thank you, Olu. Well, I think it's proper to give all thanks to God Almighty for always standing on the side of the truth. For us, really, there was never an issue that bothered most serious-minded or fairly well-educated Nigerians about the case that went to the Supreme Court. In the first instance, it was a case that had no business going to the Supreme Court in the first instance, as I said. And the unanimous decision of the 7-man panel that presided over the case said that much eventually. It's just that it's in the nature of politicians to take advantage of the gullibility of the ordinary people and spread all kinds of falsehood in order to keep their own motley crowd together, because they know that this was probably the only thing holding them together, in the mistaken belief that somehow some magic could be done by some powers that be that would be extra legal and extrajudicial. But as it turned out, the judgment went the way of the law. It didn't go in the way of manipulation that some of our friends on the other side have been used to. So to that extent, I think it has restored, for those who may have their doubts and they believe that anything is possible in Nigeria. It's restored their confidence, and it's given them the greater commitment to serve our people, and also it's given the government that I heard a greater resolve not to disappoint Ekiti people. As for our friends on the other side who went on the wild goose chase to the Supreme Court, I hope it's also afforded them the opportunity for sober reflection, particularly in terms of getting them to focus more on the developmental agenda of the state rather than their own opportunistic self-aggrandizement, which was what took them there in the first instance. Ekiti is one. We are all one, and I hope everybody can come on board the train of development and focus on what would give our people the greater good of government. So that's our attitude to it. As for whether anyone was packing out of government house or some salary was being delayed for that purpose, I think this government has a track record as far as salary is concerned. We don't owe workers. There's nobody who can say that is owed by Ekiti state government, even when we had issues with government in terms of the management of the federal allocation, and our commissioners worked out. We still are very, very religiously committed to honoring our obligations to our workers. So we wouldn't do that, but it's part of what goes on. The language of politics, sadly, sometimes is falsehood, especially for those who feel that is the only way they can remain relevant to the system.
Yes, before I allow my colleagues to come in, there's another one that I still want to ask you. During the June 12th celebration, then after the Supreme Court judgment, the movement of the people, the way they welcome you into the state, then the June 12th celebration, then after the whole thing, you came up, and I heard it in the news, and you said, I might not be able to say it the way you said it, that I'm ready to accept as ever to offer myself for your service. Well, I want to know, maybe you uttered that out of emotional outburst to the welcome you received after the Supreme Court judgment and the turnout during the June 12th celebration, or you're saying something deeper than this?
No, the only reason why I'm here is service. I'm not saying anything extraordinarily different from what I've always been saying. I am not here for self, I'm here for service. And there had been a whole range of requests across the state that I should offer myself for service on a second term ticket. And I've refrained from responding to that, not out of any false sense of modesty, but as I've always argued, we're only 2.5 years into the current administration. I still have a whole lot of work to deliver, even though a lot has been delivered in terms of the promises we made to the people. And whilst we're at it, I do not want to be distracted into going on a political rostrum agenda. And I said to them that whilst I have heard what people are saying, the various constituencies and associations, and I accept to do that, I would have the opportunity in the near future, to come to that declaration and say, I want to run for second term. There's a difference between accepting an endorsement, in my own understanding of the English language, and declaring to run for office. They're two different things. But I don't think people should even go into such terminological exactitudes. The important thing is we have a job of work to do. That's what we're doing. When the time comes and it is appropriate for us to react formally to the various endorsements in terms of a formal declaration, we would also come to that conclusion. But for now, the important thing is we're working.
Now, Toba, it's your turn.
Yeah. Your Excellency, sir. Teachers in Ekiti State, they are currently on strike. And of course, the strike has entered the fourth week now. But it's like both the teachers and the state government, they are not ready to shift any ground. So the fear is, we know that this will definitely have an impact on our children at home. What is the government doing to really solve this crisis?
Thank you, Toba, for that question. This government's track record, as far as education is concerned, is well known. The strike action that Ekiti teachers embarked on was supposedly a national strike action over what is known as the teacher's peculiar allowance. But there's a history to teacher's peculiar allowance, which I don't want to be lost on ordinary people who may not know about it. Because my own priority is the welfare of our teachers, or much more importantly, the education of the future generation. 27.5% peculiar allowance came out in the context of an understanding with governors in 2008. I wasn't governor then, but that's not even an important issue. Government is a continuum. When I came in as governor, teachers in this state were on a minimum wage of about 8,500. A year into coming into office, there was a relativity pay for core civil servants, which teachers opted to go for, even though they weren't qualified, because the teachers are public servants, they're not civil servants. Again, that distinction may not be clear to people out there. Core civil servants are those who work in the civil service, not local government workers, not nurses and health workers who have specialized grades. But at least people are aware that teachers fall into two categories: teachers that are paid by local governments, primary school teachers, and teachers that are paid by us, by the state government, secondary school teachers primarily. So they opted for the 33% relativity increase instead of sticking to the 27.5% that they had. Of course, 33% was more than 27%, so you can understand why they did what they did at the time. So we graciously approved that. We gave them 33%, and then that took the minimum wage in Ekiti State to 13,500. When the minimum wage agitation also came, of course Ekiti was one of the first states to pay minimum wage. So within a period of roughly 1 year, their salaries had moved from 8,500 to 13,500 to 19,300. But when they opted for 33%, they necessarily dropped 27.5% voluntarily. But when minimum wage came, I voluntarily also said to them, now that everybody is at par and peculiar teachers allowance is supposed to take teachers, is a way of encouraging teachers to see their profession as a profession to attract people into, we would pay the 27.5%. 27.5%. But I added a caveat that we would pay when the finances of the state improves. Now, we've continued on that negotiation and discussion for some time, and we made it clear to them that the resources that 27.5% of the new minimum wage, remember, they were getting 27.5% of 8,000 before. So if you're going to get 27.5% of 19,300 minimum wage, and don't forget you have teachers that are on level 16, level 17, that clearly throws the state resources into a complicated thing. And we made it clear to them that there's no way the state can afford 172 million per month. If you do your calculation roughly, that's over 2 billion per year on 27.5% alone. Now, Toba, you are very familiar with the finances of the Federation. Ekiti State is number 35 on that Federation ladder. Yes. Ekiti State roughly brings home from Federation account about 2.8 billion every month. The current wage bill of this state is 2.2 billion. So if you add what I've just told you to that, it will take it to 2.4 billion. Meaning we have literally 400 million to do our social security that is monthly, to do other expenses outside of wages. And yet you go around Ekiti, you see what the state government is doing. Roads, in the agri sector, education, in healthcare, and we call them. We explain to them that even with all of these difficulties that we encounter, we're willing to pay you 15%. When the finances of the state improves, we would now pay the balance of 12.5% to make it 27.5%. And we give example of states where teachers are not on strike and they're not even getting 27.5%. And Ogun State, that was offering the same 15%, that has an average income of 5 billion from federal allocation, and another 4 billion, given its proximity to Lagos, from its IGR, offered 15%. And the teachers in Ogun State called off their strike on 15%. Ekiti, that does not have half the resources of Ogun and is doing far more in terms of our commitment in the education field. We have teachers who are unwilling, even though, as I told you, they've had an increase on their salary that is more than double from the time this government got it, from 8,500, and I'm talking minimum, so you can then extrapolate from that minimum to what the others earn. So I think my own attitude to it is, again, to continue to appeal to them in the interest of the students and the young people that they are in charge of, because ultimately all of us are going to have our duty to our God and to our conscience. It's not over. We're talking to them, and we hope that good sense will prevail very soon in that discussion. But you cannot pay what you don't have. There are all sorts of shenanigans that some have been carrying around, talking about, oh, state is wasting resources on certain things, that is why they cannot pay teachers. Anybody who has even limited knowledge of how government operates will know that Ekiti State government is an open book. That is why I confidently not just do this program regularly, but also for those who want more information, they can approach government. That's why we have the Freedom of Information Act in the state. There are states that are owing workers 3 months' salary, and the workers are not on strike. We're not owing a single worker 1 penny in this state. So, and this is where many people begin to think there are other factors behind this, beyond just wage negotiations. I hope that is not true. I hope teachers are not being promoted into this by unseen forces, because they should be more interested in the development of this state than in what people are after, either for their own personal interest or otherwise. But I know that good sense would eventually prevail on the matter.
Mui, your question.
Your Excellency, a while ago you spoke about being in office for self, not for self, but for service. The aspect of the 8-point agenda that caught my fancy is the social welfare scheme for elderly citizens. And in your 2013 budget, you specified that more resources will be pumped into that scheme. So far, how much percentage of elderly citizens are we looking at to be accommodated with more resources, and is it just within the capital or across board, across all the towns of the state?
First, the Social Security benefit is a law. It is a law that applies to everybody who qualifies, and it is across the board. It is not discriminatory. It is not politically motivated. It is for everyone who qualifies and who applies. Because it's one thing to qualify, it's another thing to apply for it. So we do make an effort through various community institutions, our traditional rulers, our various towns unions, to also get information on those who they know to be qualified, who are not benefiting from it. This year, the budget for it is 1.2 billion, which makes it 100 million every month. And we're hoping to increase it at least by another 2,000 to 3,000 people by the time we get into the 3rd anniversary of the Social Security in October. So it is a continuously improving scheme. And also, it's not a static scheme. People are dying. There are elderly people who are dying and who automatically go off the program. There are savings made when we lose people who are of old age and either out of ill health or just out of their own volition die. So it is a progressive initiative like that. And what's good about it? About 5 of our other states are now looking to actually doing the same thing in their own states in the southwest. So we're pleased that it's not only just popular at home, it's also popular outside of Ekiti.
Yes, Your Excellency, I will still have to take you back to the issue of teachers. There is a kind of recruitment of teachers going on, and there's this fear in town that government is trying to replace the striking work teachers with the incoming ones.
No. I don't think government is doing that. Government is trying as much as possible to address issues of consequential vacancies. There are vacancies that occur because people have retired. Teachers are also retiring. And if teachers retire, if there are subject areas that we do not have enough teachers to cover, particularly very, very important core subjects, mathematics, English, integrated science, and subjects like that, we obviously would have to recruit more teachers. So the exercise that we are currently undertaking does not have anything to do with striking teachers. There are other mechanisms within the labor law that we can apply as times progress if we don't reach an amicable solution with teachers. But we're not there yet. If we get there, we will use the labor law to address that issue.
Toba, your next question.
Excellent, sir. The state is currently embarking on some major projects, major ones for that matter, which include we have the government house, the civic center, and the state pavilion, so to say, which tagged legacy projects. So the question now is, I want to ask the possibility for those projects being completed between now and next election. Do you think this will be possible?
Do I think it will be possible?
Yes, between now and the next elections.
So the legacy projects are bond projects.
And concerning the limp parts of the government.
No. The bond, the money we raised from the capital markets was raised for specific purposes. If you look at the bond prospectus, this is why I laugh when I read some of the ignorant comments that some of our people make about this, either out of genuine lack of knowledge or mischief. We went to the capital market to borrow 20 billion. The 20 billion was subdivided into various projects. The large chunk of it went on roads. The result is there for all Ekiti people to see as far as the roads are concerned. The legacy project, Ikogosi, is there for many to see if anyone is in doubt. And for each of these projects, we agreed a particular sum based on feasibility studies and the bill of quantities and bill of mechanical engineering, as the case may be, if it was the roads or buildings. So for each of these, we have a certain amount allocated to them in the bond project. We cannot spend the bond money on any other thing apart from the listed projects that we agreed with the stock exchange, because the bond fund is very, very rigorously monitored. And as you may be aware, you cannot even access it without necessarily going through certain steps. So we have no fears as to the completion of the legacy project. I don't know when last you went round. If you go to the pavilion you're talking about, you will see that it's in very, very advanced stage, and we're confident that that will be completed this year. This is June. The state pavilion will be completed, so we won't have to be using Christ School grounds for National Youth Service or Children's Day events and all of these events that we take there. If you go on top of Ayoba Hill to see what is happening there, you will also see that the government house project is significantly advanced. In fact, virtually all the staff quarters is completed. You can see it from outside driving. The road is completed, and the main building is already on the second floor. So I have no doubt about that as well. Ditto the Olayinka Civic Center. If you see that, you also know that work is progressing at a very, very fast pace. All of the legacy projects will definitely be delivered before the end of this administration's time in office.
So the second leg.
The second leg is where the money is coming from.
Yeah, the question. No, you have answered that. Where the money is coming from?
I've told you.
And again, there is from outside, sir. It's like some people are saying that the new government house, that the Ekiti state doesn't really need that at the moment.
Again, people are entitled to opinions, but they're not entitled to facts. Facts are sacred, and you can say whatever you like about whether you think something is priority or not. I come from a school of thought that Ekiti is not a second-class state. I go to other states. Ekiti is the only state that I know to date without a government house. Go right round 36 states, and the government house is not even my idea. If you have the opportunity to come, to my office, you will see the model of the government house that was prepared by Shegoni. Of course, we didn't follow that model. We worked on something else. But that's just to show you that the intention to build a government house on the same Ayoba was there. So if people out of political mischief now wants to, if they didn't have the courage or they didn't have the tenacity to actually undertake what they wanted to do, and a government comes that sees the benefit to have a befitting accommodation for the state number one executive, I think it's commendation that should come after that, not condemnation. In the first instance, I'm not going to be governor in Ekiti State forever. Two, when I leave this job, I'm not going to carry that house on Ayoba Hill to Isho Ekiti. It is a legacy. That's precisely why we say it's a legacy project. The current place I reside in, when you come in, it's written out there. Commissioned by Presidential Obasanjo, government guest house. And if you've had the opportunity to come to that place, you will see that I cannot even meet two groups at the same time, because there's only one sitting room in that government house. And we knew what we encountered when we were receiving visitors after the demise of the deputy governor. Almost everywhere was jam-packed. People were staying outside because we didn't even have a befitting residence. There's no privacy. There is no. I would even rather live in my own house. For 3 months when I came into office, I was living where? I was living in Ekiti. I have no problem with that. But I also think even if I live in my house, the government still has a duty to have a place of record, a place of history that people can come to as citizens of Ekiti. There are states that have 4 government houses that I know in this country. We're not saying that we're doing that. We're saying that Ekiti too should have a proper place for its own executives. I don't think it's too much for people to also be seen as belonging to the Committee of States and being regarded as a proper state, not an appendage to other states.
Yes, need to remind you that you are on to meet your governor with Ekiti State Governor Dr. Kaude Fahimi giving account of his stewardship. We are going on a break now. We will be back to have more from His Excellency. Stay with us.
Our 8-point transformational agenda represents our vision for a greater Ekiti, where the business of governance is not only transparent, but accountable and responsive. Where we create optimum opportunities that will improve citizens' lives and attract investments. Where quality education is a right, not a privilege. Where good and cheap healthcare is not a luxury. Where our land is evergreen and no single child goes to bed unfed. That is our agenda. Just keep faith. It's all about transparency, accountability, consensus, responsiveness, and inclusiveness. The leader, not just talking, is listening. Meet your governor. Your right to know.
Thanks for staying tuned, and His Excellency is still very much with us in the studio. We are going to take text messages from the people outside there. You know, this program is participatory, and we are going to take calls from outside too, but we'll do that after this question from Mui. When you have the floor.
Yes, thank you. Your Excellency, speaking of projects, the news of a new state college of agriculture was all over the place recently. I have two questions. First, is it not another there was dispute about, well, it's in Oye, no, it's going to be somewhere else, in Kole and all that. Is this not just going to be another project on paper, since we have institutions running in the state, and when is the taking off for the College of Agriculture?
Thank you, Mui. Well, you know, there were promises I made to Ekiti people when I was running for this office. One of such promises was to establish a College of Agriculture for middle-level technical people who would be able to drive our commercial agriculture agenda. Because one of the 8-point agenda of this administration is modernizing agriculture. And you need manpower, you need people who could feel that critical connecting thread between moving from subsistence farming to becoming professionals in the field. And what we have done is to go into partnership with some international organizations in order to make this possible. Our partner in this business is called ACCO. They're the manufacturers of Massey Ferguson tractors, and they are assisting us with the establishment of this school, this College of Agriculture. Remember, I talked about the bond project. If you also look at the prospectus of the capital that we raised from the capital market, this is specific. There is a certain amount allocated in the bond money to the College of Agriculture. So it's not a white elephant project. We were just being very deliberate in our approach so that we pace ourselves and we are at a point of being ready. The place that we're using was actually earmarked for the Farmers Academy that we went into partnership over with the Odua Investment Corporation. So, and we've started the buildings in the place already. I went round on an agri tour just a couple of days ago, and it was clear that we could, at least for the first intake, be ready by September. So there's no reason why it should not happen by October 2013.
Quickly, Your Excellency, I'd like you to make clarifications about the commercialization of agriculture. How do you mean?
Commercialization, okay, thank you. We are very determined to bring on board players that are really big in the agriculture sector. And we already have a number of people that are doing that. We have Veggie Fresh operating around the Yemero. We have the DATCO, the Dutch Agriculture Trading Company. They're coming in here not only to set up farms, but also to establish a cassava processing plant that will produce starch. And we have companies that will help us develop the full value chain of our agricultural products, be it cocoa, be it cassava, rice. We're having rice processing plants coming to Igbemo, for example. So, but these are not things that we used to have. We used to be subsistence farmers in the state, and that's not getting us anywhere. But we don't want to run the subsistence farmers out of business. We want them to go into partnership. We want these bigger farmers with more resources to assist us in upskilling the the subsistence farmers and small farm holders in the state. That's the link.
All right, let's quickly attend to messages that are already streaming in. The first one says, Your Excellency, I wish to commend you on your various achievements. I'm a nurse in one of the general hospitals. I have not received my salary for about 5 months now. The authorities keep saying it is a problem with the e-payment. Please help me, sir. Mrs. Toyi Adebiyi Ekiti.
Okay. Please, I would just like to say that must be a unique case, and I'm glad you said that it's in connection with the e-payment. I hope you know that we moved from manual payment of salary to e-payment, and some people are still encountering some problems. But in this specific instance, I would just like to encourage Mrs. Adebiyi to send the details of her situation, or go in to see the Commissioner for Finance, who is in charge of this e-payment salary arrangement. So I would love to ensure that we get this sorted out as soon as possible. But 5 months is an incredibly long time. How has she been surviving if she's not been paid salary for 5 months? I really hope she would get in touch with the office tomorrow and have this sorted out.
And this one says, sir, kindly use your good office to help in the accreditation of surgery, pediatricians and other departments in EXO. Many of the good doctors are leaving for another place, despite the fact that the facilities you have provided in the hospitals are at the best in southwestern Nigeria. Omolade BA.
Again, I do not necessarily agree that it is lack of doctors that is the problem we have in the teaching hospital. I think it's more to do with the distribution of the doctors across the various departments. There are obviously certain departments that may need residents, because it's also a training institution. It's not just a facility to take care of people who are sick. And as a training institution, there are requisite there are requirements that they must meet. We are helping to meet those requirements. We've just released about 100 million to Ekiti State University for the accreditation process of the medical students, because the medical students are moving from their purely academic work to clinicals, and the Medical Council of Nigeria will soon visit. I think it's July that they're coming. So as part of that preparation, we are supporting the institution. Okay. Maybe the person who sent that is not aware of what we're doing in that regard.
Okay, Your Excellency, we are receiving calls from outside. Hello, who is calling?
Hello, good evening.
Yeah, good evening. You are on to His Excellency.
Mr. Governor, we're greeting you. Well done. God bless you in Jesus' name.
Good evening, ma. How are you?
Okay.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
We really appreciate all your effort in this case.
Thank you.
But sir, we are calling your attention to these armed robbers that are very rampant in this Ekiti. They are killing people. They are robbing every now and then. Up till now, many reports are over all the police places. Please, we need your assistance. We don't have any security. Please help us, sir.
Thank you, ma. I am very concerned about the security situation in the state. We have had some encounters in the last 1 or 2 weeks with armed robbery. I think around Adebayo here we had one about a week or 2 ago. We're not relenting. We are redirecting the police authorities to increase their own patrol and to also concentrate on intelligence gathering. They are trying their best. They are arresting some of the people who have been involved in these horrible heinous activities around the state. But we must not relent. We also must give information as citizens. The job of security is a job for all of us. It's not just for police alone. We all must undertake our own responsibilities so that we can reduce this menace in our environment. Our state is relatively the most crime-free state in the country, but we cannot totally do away with crime, because crime sometimes is linked to wider societal problems, and we all have a responsibility, particularly government, to help reduce the state of poverty. That is why we have so many social welfare programs in the state to help reduce that.
Well, maybe something is wrong with our system, so I couldn't take the next text message, but I'll ask this question before the thing is up. Ikogosi Graduate Summer School, what is the concept? What is it all about?
What is the Ikogosi Graduate Summer School all about? Well, the Graduate Summer School is really our own way of complementing the academic standards and improving the academic standards of our graduate students, postgraduate students in various fields. What we have done was to try and really turn around our brain drain to brain gain. The reality of our situation, I know this because I was also a diasporan. The reality of our situation is that there's hardly any university you go around the world that you don't have an Ekiti academic, thriving, doing very well in the institution. And the truth of the matter is, it is very difficult to bring all of them back home to come and work here on a permanent basis. It's not realistic. So I then try to figure out how can I make them useful, because every time I go out they talk to me, what can we do, how can we assist you, and so on and so forth. And I say, okay, fine, you want to assist, you always go on summer holiday. When you go on your summer holiday, can you spare 1 week, come home, come and take our graduates, junior researchers, assistant lecturers, and so on and so forth, come and take them in the latest research methods, in the programs in your own various fields. And if we do that, you never know who you are going to pick up there as a star, who would also become an internationally recognized academic that can give back to this environment. And we, in the first step, we chose about 50 of them. And the 50 of them have been in Ikogosi now for the last 1.5 weeks. They're soon going to be finishing their program. And what they've been exposed to during that period, many of them, I go there, I see them, and say, look, their lives have been completely changed. Because they now know that you can actually be an academic that is respected across the world, even from Nigeria, and you don't have to lower your standards because you are in a particularly small environment. And EXU is trying. EXU has just gotten the result of accreditation. The National Universities Commission just sent me the accreditation result of Ekiti State University, and Ekiti State University scored 100%. For the first time, the university has virtually every single course accredited. If you know the history of that university, you will know what used to happen in the past.
Yes.
This is the first time that they are having 100% in their accreditation.
Yes, Your Excellency, we are having calls again. Hello? Who is calling? Hello? I think we lost that call. The message that was on screen before the equipment went off, I noticed something like people are ASCON that pass ASCON, that they've not done interview for them to be appropriately placed. That what can you do for them, sir?
ASCON, that's the civil service.
Yes.
Well, I've just given approval that the civil service should recruit into positions that are vacant. There are levels where we don't have enough hands, particularly the junior levels, levels 8 in the admin grade, levels 9, 10, and I believe the State Civil Service Commission is going to be doing some work on that very soon. So my advice to them is that they should keep in touch with the Civil Service Commission, and hopefully they would get quick respite.
Atoba, you have Another question for His Excellency.
Well, Your Excellency, let me just call your attention to this bridge along Iworoko area. This very close to the university.
Hello.
Not university, IME garage.
Hello,
Yeah,
good evening.
that
I want to
bridge,
speak
sir,
to the governor.
if you look at it critically, it's like the volumes of water passing
Hello?
under the
Toba,
bridge.
let's quickly take this call. Hello, who's calling?
Hello, good evening.
Hello,
sir.
good evening. You're on to His Excellency.
Good evening, madam.
Hello. Hello, I'm watching your program now, so I need to call you.
Just go ahead with what you have to say.
Yes, sir, I just want to beg you to answer our teachers so that we can go back to school.
Well, thank you very much. I'm doing all I can to make sure that your teachers get back to school.
Yeah, Toba, let's go on with your question.
So, like I was saying,
The bridge
sir,
and the flood.
Yeah, the bridge. Sir. It's like the volume of water. Like I was saying, is much more. I think it's greater than the capacity of that bridge itself. What is the government doing? I mean, towards probably raise up the bridge or to further do something about it. It's causing a lot of.
I don't think
flooding.
it's the volume. I don't think it's the capacity of the bridge that is the problem. It's the access for the water to move. And there are places there that will be channelized and dredged so that there would be more opportunity for the water that normally comes following the rain to move into wider channels.
Yes, another call. Hello? Hello? I think we lost that call. Mui.
I'd like to say kudos to Your Excellency. We seem to have some good reports coming from the education sector. I'd like to steer us a little away from that. You recently resumed payments of severance package for past political office holders. Your Excellency, won't your opponents consider that as a political gimmick? What's the motive behind this resumption, considering the fact that it's been on for a while and somehow it was stopped and now a resumption?
Well, I'm much more concerned with the people who are deserving of receiving their severance packages. That's a duty by government. Whatever one does in public office would receive tons of interpretation. What is important is having a clear conscience and doing what is right. If government owes people, it is the duty of government to pay. If government does not have the resources to pay, it's also the duty of government to let the people know that the resources are not there, but as soon as we have it, we would begin to release it. That's what we've done with gratuity. We have cleared more gratuity in the last 2 months, for example, than government has cleared in a while, because I made a conscious decision that those who have been out of service on retirement, it's only fair that you give them the money that they're entitled to as soon as they can get it, so that they can either enter into business or do some other things. Ditto politicians. I mean, if there is no public position for you again, at least whatever is owed you, you can take it and go and do something with that. I don't think any political meaning should be read into it at all. It's just the duty of government, and we'll continue to do what is right in terms of the welfare of our people for as long as we're here.
Yes, sir, Your Excellency, we've exhausted our time and we have to call it hot at this juncture. And we have to thank our people out there for calling and send text messages to make sure that we talk and join issues with our governor to let him tell us how he's been running the affairs of the state. Once again, thanks for coming here and jumping at another opportunity to come here and meet your people. Once again, thanks for coming.
Thank you, Olu, and I want to thank viewers at home. I think next month we have Yoruba. Maybe that would have a wider coverage and reach to our people. I know that we have to keep alternating, but it's more preferable to do this in Yoruba and then have a wider group participate in it. But I want to thank my interrogators and viewers at home for being with us on this month's edition of Meet the Governor.
And thanks to my colleagues, Toba Suleiman from These Days newspaper. Toba, thanks for coming. And Dabai FM, Munyeoluwa, Olatubosun Ujo, thanks for making it all the way from Akure. I am Olu Popola, and I still have to thank those people on the entourage of the governor. Mr. Olainka Oyebode is the CPS to Mr. Governor. Mr. Shino Awelewa, DGBSCS, Elder Adiwaya Ayaga, and then Elder Idowu Adebiyi, both members, both of BSCS. Mrs. Gloria Toba, GM NTA at Ekiti. Mr. Femi Oladipo, representative of GM Progress FM. Mr. Odunayo Gumola, SA Media to the governor. Mr. Babs Daramola, and another assistant to the governor. Once again, I'm Olupopola. Next month, we will be back with another episode and another one in Yoruba. And thanks very much for staying tuned.
Your heart, you can't get up, you can't stay down. You think this must be the end of the line, but I'm here by your side, holding on, holding tight. Come on friend, let's move on to a higher place. Jello, Omaki Sojo, Chibolu.
Ẹ jẹ́ ká jọ sọ bí lẹ́kìtì yìí dọ̀tun. Ilẹ̀